Now look at this.
What's up, Big Biopain with you, topic 7.11 on extinction. So there have been 5 mass extinctions that we often talk about. And mass extinction involves where 3/4 or more of the species on Earth are lost. So now you don't need to know exactly what the 5 mass extinctions are, but you do need to understand how the environmental factors have led to the extinctions and what happens because of extinctions. So let's take a quick look at those 5 mass extinctions, talk about what environmental changes happened, and then how that caused the extinctions. So the first one we talk about has to do with that there was an amount of plant material that caused the carbon dioxide level to decrease. Due to the carbon dioxide decreasing, and of course carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, the temperature on Earth decreased. This led to glaciers forming. Those glaciers forming decreased habitats. Later on, we said there was a warming event. That warming event then increased the temperature on Earth, and those organisms that were not adapted to this warmer environment were unable to survive. This one involved there being a large amount of nutrients that were deposited into the water. Due to those nutrients, we saw algal bloom. Algal bloom then is going to decrease the amount of oxygen available in the water, which suffocated many of the organisms. So here we see that we've got a large amount of carbon dioxide is being released from volcanic activity. The carbon dioxide then is being used by certain bacteria and it produces methane. So between the carbon dioxide and the methane, there's an increase in the temperature on Earth. And then we also saw there was an increase in acid rain, and then the ocean water became very acidic, which was very toxic for different life. Again, we're seeing that the volcanic activity is increasing the amount of carbon dioxide, which traps the heat as well as makes the oceans very acidic. Carbon dioxide plus water makes carbonic acid, which is an acid. And then they also believe that there was impacts from a lot of comets that caused some of the extinctions. So here we see the opposite taking place. An asteroid hit Earth, and when the asteroid hit, there was a big cloud of debris that went up and into the atmosphere, which decreased solar radiation. That decrease in solar radiation decreased the temperature on Earth, which led to a loss of species. That took longer than expected. Sorry, y'all. So let's look at this more of a local extinction level. If we lose a primary consumer, there's going to be an increase in the primary producer. Why? Because there's a loss of the organism that was consuming it, right? So now those organisms are flourishing. There's also going to be a decrease in the secondary and tertiary consumers. Why? Because they lost food. So extinctions can cause changes in our trophic structure, which can cause even more issues as you look at the big ecological changes. This also can affect our species diversity. Species diversity has to do with 2 things. The first thing, species richness. How many different types of species do we have? So if there's 5 different species in an area, the species richness is 5. The second part we have is relative abundance. Relative abundance deals with how common or how rare is that species. So if in our ecosystem we have species 1 is 80% and the other 4 species are 5%, and something was to happen to species 1, that's going to lead to big changes in our ecosystem. The last thing to look at is that when there is an extinction, there's now going to be an increase in available niches. The organism originally took up a niche and now they're no longer there, so those resources are now available for other organisms. Enter FRQ from 2021. So we're told the GM is infected by a virus, which causes there to be a loss of that entire species. And we're asked to predict what happens to the big bird beak. So big bird's beak is going to get larger. It'll get deeper. It'll get longer because now it has more resources. And so it'll undergo directional selection. AP Biopain just says, bye y'all.